Welcome to the Agape Podcast. I'm Beck, a passionate, sold-out lover of Jesus who accidentally started a Christian singles ministry, and now I want to help as many people as possible to find their husband or wife while being super healthy and full of hope. So get ready for some real, raw talk about all things singleness and dating.
Oh, sorry guys, we're going live. I didn't realize it had already started. Hey guys, I didn't realize that pushing go live wouldn't take me to another screen. So hello everyone, we are currently live. You got to hear some Texas banter. I'm sorry, I did not let the guys know. I thought that once you pushed go live, it takes you to another thing of like, now we're going live and prepare at another screen, but it didn't. So hello and welcome to our men's panel. I'm so sorry to interrupt your amazing conversation / banter around Texas. You guys missed something really special. Leif was singing, so it was
I wouldn't call it singing.
He was definitely doing something that was interesting. Guys, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for our panel. I am so excited to have these incredible godly men speak into this group, answer some of your questions, answer some questions that we as women sometimes have. And it just is so good to have guys shed some light on it. Like, hey, what do guys actually think? Because sometimes we just don't know. And so before we start, guys, I would love it if we could just go around and you could introduce yourselves. Tell us your name, where you're from, how old you are, just so we can kind of get an idea of kind of where you are at. Darren, if you want to get started, and then we can go clockwise around.
Sure. Well, my name is Darren Mejia. I'm currently 29 years young. I was born and raised in Texas, mostly south of San Antonio, in a small town. Population is probably like 5,000 people whenever I was growing up. And then I moved to a bigger town, which is much like the size of Reading. There's about 100,000 people here. I have two daughters. I was married in I believe it was 2011, and unfortunately was divorced in 2015. And we have, from that marriage, I have two little girls, a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old, which this is not the picture of my little girl. It's a picture of my sister and my grandmother. But yeah, I attended BSSM in 2018, and now I've been in West Texas ever since. Currently working on building up a business.
Come on.
About me.
Love it. So good. I love that you clarified that is not you. Love it. Or not your daughter.
Yeah, it's not my daughter. No. Or me. Yeah.
Or you. Can you imagine? Yeah, my mother just dressed me in a lot of pink and like frilly bonnets.
Now, my mom
would explain a lot, Darren. No, I'm just kidding.
My mom did do that. She did do that at one point. It was in a bathing suit with a tutu. I don't have a picture to that, so don't ask for it.
Okay, good. Love it. So good. Michael, Austin, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Michael. I'm from Texas originally as well. I grew up in Houston. Moved out to Reading in 2012 to do BSSM. I'm currently 45 years old and never married. And I'm a teacher. I teach over at Simpson, math and science. So yeah, kind of a little bit different from some of the crew out here, but yeah, it's been really good.
Love it. I actually didn't know any of that about you, so that's awesome.
There you go. I assume you knew that I used to live with your now husband.
Yes, I did know that, and you also do dancing, so that's really cool too.
I do, yeah.
Love it. Swing dancing, right?
I actually started with country dancing down in Texas. And
come on, yeehaw.
Yeah. Just transitioned into more swing dancing and worship dancing and stuff. But yeah, I really enjoy it.
So good. Well, it's great to have you on. Thanks for sharing. Josh, do you want to go next?
Yeah. I'm Josh, currently in Reading. I am from Pennsylvania originally. But then I joined YWAM and started moving around the world. Or around America, I guess. I was in Tennessee and Kentucky, and then moved to California in 2014. And then 2017 did my first year and graduated third year a year ago. And I am a missionary. So that looks like a lot of different things. But I just got back from my first trip post-COVID. Was in West Asia and Romania. Had an awesome time. So it's a bit about me. Oh, I am 34, single, never married.
Come on, so good. I'm so sorry I'm laughing. Leif, you guys can't see, but Leif is putting Anchorman, Wedding Crashers quotes in our chat. It's so hard to keep the straight face.
You can't.
I'm not reading that. That's too distracting.
You can't give away my.
But thank you so much,
you
Josh.
can't
You're
say
incredible.
publicly. You can't say publicly what's in our secret chat back.
No, I can't. You just have to know there is one. So if you see us giggling while someone's saying something serious, it's because somebody.
It's because we're
All right. No, they cannot see it, Michael. Okay, so Leif, thank you so much, Josh. Leif, if you want to introduce yourself, which will be good. It'll keep your hands busy while you talk, so we can't see. You can't press anything.
So my name is Leif. I'm 49. I was born in Cali, grew up in Oregon, and originally moved back to Cali. Longtime pastor, current teacher, and just happy to be here. And whatever life I can give away in this chat. I've been married before, so have learned a lot and grown a lot in wisdom since that time. And God's done a lot of healing in my life. And so it's been, I'm also like Darren, I've had the experience of having been through the experience of marriage before, and now looking forward to seeing what God does in the future. So.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for being so transparent and real and raw. I love that we have a mixed bag here, because I know that in the group there's a mixed bag of people, different backgrounds, different experiences that they've been through. And so I really hope that we can speak into that. And so the first question that I want to ask you guys, hopefully it's not too hard, is what is your favorite thing about women? It's like, what do you love about the opposite? Josh is already smiling from ear to ear. What do you love most about the opposite sex? Feel free to unmute yourself. You guys don't have to mute yourselves while we go if you don't need to, but feel free. Who's going to go first?
Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first.
Okay, go for it, Darren. Step right in there.
So this is probably answering another question that one of the ladies had submitted, but I'm just going to go out and I'm going to answer it with answering the first question. So what I especially love about women, and this is probably going to be a shocker, but it's not. Before it was like a shocker, but now it's like, it's just how I see life. I really, really love the boldness about women, and just like going straight forward, headlong for what they believe in, what they are convinced about. I really love that about them. Obviously, amongst other things, that's just one of the things that really stands out to me. One of the things. The other is just the nurturing, like how women are just so motherly. And I know it's I would say that, and of course they've got to be motherly. They've got to be motherly, but I've rarely met a woman who does not have like that motherly characteristic in her day-to-day life, and it's beautiful. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Love
great.
that.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my first thoughts is that I love that women aren't men. It's like women bring something so unique that we don't carry, and it's like I think that's our attraction to them, is we recognize that women carry something amazing that we don't have, and we're meant to have, and we long for it. And I just love that a woman can make anything more fun. Like just the joy that she brings to life, to adventures, to just sitting around the house. And I also love the vulnerability that they bring and this openness, because as a man, it invites me to be more vulnerable. It's like a woman being feminine actually draws something out of me that doesn't come out in any other circumstance, and it's like her vulnerability invites me into that place of vulnerability too, in a way that men just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. I think about their intimacy with the Lord, and as men, we can have our own intimacy with the Lord, and it's amazing. And I wouldn't trade it, but women approach intimacy so differently. And I learn something every time I'm with a woman who loves the Lord deeply, and you see her express that love, to our Savior. And you watch how she gives her heart to the Lord in worship or whatever it is. And it's moving, it's profoundly moving to me. I also think about when women have gone through the fire and they've gone through testing. And it's contrary to what women might think. When women have scars from having gone through fire with the Lord, guys think that's beautiful. It's not a bad thing to go through and have scars, having gone through the fire with the Lord and the testing of the Lord. That's one of the most profound things where I respect women the highest, is when they've actually gone through the journey with God and they've come out through things, and you hear their story. But more than just hearing it, when you see them actually walk it out, you watch in their body language, you watch in their posturing, you watch in their words, their attitude, their expression, how they're walking out their faith in God. It is profoundly moving to a guy to see that happen. And he may never tell you that. He may never say it. There may never be really an opportunity to say it. Sometimes with certain people, there's not, but it's always life-changing to see that happen. When a woman has walked through with God and gone through the cross, it's changing. It shifts your mindset. So
good. How about you, Josh?
I think my favorite thing about women is their hair.
They have so much more of it than you. Is that why you're like, oh, so
Yeah,
just
just the long, flowy hair. No, I'm joking. I do love hair, though.
Wait, you don't like the hair?
I do love hair. It's true, but that just feels superficial to say. Two things that come to mind about the women in my life that I really appreciate is one, compassion. Like, women just have this compassion, caring thing, way more than me anyway, and I love that. And the second thing, and this is harder to define, but I just love that they're different. Like, I just consistently, in conversations with women, they have a different perspective. They do it differently. And that is like intriguing and interesting and fun and helpful and all those things.
So good. Such good answers. Not kind of what I was expecting. So I really love that. I just had a question kind of come up. I think Holy Spirit's just stirring things up. What would you guys say? This can be in dating or in general, but I think for the purpose of this group, if we can touch on some dating things as well. What are some ways that women have honored you the most? And what are some ways that women have dishonored you, whether it's in dating or in life? Because I think sometimes guys just seem to know what is dishonoring. And sometimes they'll tell me and I'm like, oh, I had no idea that was dishonoring. I've been doing that, and it's something that kind of guys, it's universal. If you talk to any dude and you say, hey, what do you think of this? Like, oh, so dishonoring. And you're like, oh, I had no idea. So I'd love it if you guys would speak to that. What's some ways that women really honor you, especially in dating, but it can just be normal life? And what are some ways that you felt dishonored and that most guys will feel dishonored if they do certain things?
I think for me, I feel super honored when, and maybe this is kind of a love language thing, but just words of affirmation, words of encouragement, and also gratitude. It can take a lot of emotional energy to like plan a date or even pursue a date. And so when there's gratitude and like receiving it and then honoring and acknowledging that with your words, I love that. As far as dishonoring, I have to think about that a little bit. I haven't felt dishonored by women hardly ever, but maybe I'll think of something.
Okay, we'll circle back to that if anything comes up for you.
Okay.
How about but that's really good. I love that. And I hear guys say more and more affirmation. Like, I didn't realize most guys have affirmation or words of affirmation very high on their love languages. My husband's the same. Unfortunately, it is very low on mine. So it is, I have he doesn't know this, but I have an alarm on my phone every day that goes off at a certain time that says like affirm, because
That's awesome.
it does, but it doesn't come naturally. And so that is something that we as women can definitely do, because most guys, I mean, who doesn't love affirmation anyway, but
Yeah.
most guys, it's very high on their love language list. So I love that. Great way to honor them.
Yeah, it really is true. And I'm actually thinking of a couple scenarios where a girl turned me down. Like I would ask her on a date and she turned me down, but in our conversation, it was filled with affirmation and honor and appreciation for who I am. And it helps so much. I felt honored even in the rejection, so it goes a long way.
So good. Yeah, that's really good. They're affirming your personhood, and so it doesn't feel like they're rejecting who you are, right? So it's not like, hey, I know everything about you, I don't like you. It's like, actually, I just don't think we're a good match. And you're like, oh, cool, I can handle that so much easier than like, I hate you, or like, leave me alone, creeper, and which is sometimes how it comes across. Does anybody else want to speak to that? That was really good.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on the sort of piggyback on that. I think that for me, when a woman allows me to help her and to serve her, I mean, even something simple as opening a door. It's not that I don't think she can open the door, but when she allows me to do something for her that she could do for herself, but she allows me to do that for her. And as a man, really all I'm looking for is her appreciation, kind of like what Josh was saying. It's like, I'm not looking for anything other than I'm trying to please her. I'm trying to serve her. And when she allows me to do that and is appreciative of that, it encourages me to want to serve her more. And then I think the flip side of that is that when I step out and take a risk and she's critical, then that instead of motivating me and inspiring me, instead demotivates me and makes me more passive. And the very nature of risks is that there's a possibility of failure, and as a man, it's like we're designed to be risk takers, and the world plays it safe, right? And so I love if I take a risk and my woman supports me unconditionally. It's like she understands that my heart's in the right place. Even if the outcome isn't what we were hoping for, she's still going to stand by me, because the world's going to criticize us when we take risks and fail. But if I take a risk and fail and she continues to support me, that encourages me to continue to take risks, whether it's risks in our relationships or risks in business or whatever, risks in ministry. But really, that standing by me and encouraging me and just allowing me to serve her and pour into her encourages me to continue to do that.
Ooh, I love that. So you'd say like you feel really honored when you're seen for the risks that you're taking. And then it's kind of like, oh, I feel like kind of put down or criticized, or even like it's dishonoring when, hey, I tried, but I'm still, but I'm getting criticized because it didn't quite work out.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I see that a lot too, in people that I talk to. It's like, oh, this guy can't do anything right, and he's trying so hard, and like he might be missing the mark, but my goodness, he's really trying. Let's cut him some slack here, right? So I totally hear that. I think that's something that we can really learn from and grow in, as well as like, oh, noticing the effort and the intentionality of, hey, you're actually really trying, rather than necessarily the outcome of like, did it work or did it not, and then being critical about that. I really love that.
Because one thing I want to say about that too is women have, I think, a lot more influence in a relationship and on their man than they realize, to either build him up or to tear him down. And what you guys say about us and think about us really matters a lot to us. And so as you encourage us and pour into us, it's like it allows us to become the men that God's created us to be.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And it totally goes the other way too. So it's like, as you guys encourage her, she blossoms and becomes a woman that God has called her to be. And as she encourages you, you come into the man that you've been called to be. So I love that. Does anyone else want to speak on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So a couple things. I'll say it in both the negative way and the positive way, because I want women to hear it as a positive thing too. It's really important. I think when, especially if you don't know the individual, if it's, let's just say it's a blind date, make sure that you have the ability to offer a degree of trust in the relationship right up front. It doesn't need to be the kind of trust that you would offer someone if you're married to them. You may not know, but what you want to avoid is going on a date where the partner immediately is on the defensive and having to prove that he's trustworthy, like going out of his way to say, when the person shows up, or if they show up, and there's almost like this sense of, I don't know that you're trustworthy, and now I want you to prove during the course of the entire date that you are trustworthy. There's sort of a power dynamic that happens that's really sort of unfortunate. And so it doesn't need to be all of your trust, of course, because you don't know the person, but make sure you can offer a modicum of trust, just some, and with opportunities to build on that trust and make it really clear what it looks like, because that will give the guy hope that he can actually be built up in his eyes, because trust is a guy's love language. I mean, if you look what the love and respect thing talks about, trust is really a guy's love language. It's how guys receive love. And so that's really super important. If you have any questions, or if there's maybe, if you have doubts, there's a way to offer a little bit of trust. Maybe you show up for coffee at a public location the first time. You don't know the person. Maybe you don't want to get in the car with them. Maybe you don't want to go on a long trip somewhere. But maybe you can go up to a public place and say, well, let's see how this goes. And then the next step we can take is maybe we'll go hiking, in a public park, or maybe we'll go to this next thing. But so it's something where there's a tangible way to grow the level of trust. Mm-hmm. So it puts the sort of the power dynamic very equitably and keeps it there all the time. Because a relationship will really get off track if there's a power dynamic, if one person's constantly having to prove to the other person that they're safe and trustworthy. And the other thing I'd say is follow-up is such a big deal. I would much rather personally have someone say, I'm not interested in you. It's not going to work. I'm engaged to someone right now in a relationship. I'm busy right now. That's so much more helpful than just finding out by an absence of communication. And because then you're left guessing, and that's probably a thing for me specifically, because I'm a communicator. I'm a teacher, and that's something I just value highly. So I like to know, and a no is good for me. Hearing a no is fine as long as it's a clear no, and there's nothing dead in the channel that says, well, how are you feeling? I haven't heard from you. So that's harder, because then you could try contacting them a series of times and you end up looking like you're hanging on, but you don't know that. But to them, it looks like you're hanging on and you should have got the message. Well, you may not know. So clear communication is helpful.
Yeah. Being ghosted is never fun, right? Who's been ghosted before? Just give us a little. Yeah. Okay. So most of you. Yeah. So being ghosted is never fun. It's the opposite of honoring, exactly like what you said. Clear is kind. And actually, Josh, stop. Sorry, Josh is putting something in there. I can't read it out, but it's super funny. Okay, so yes, the boys are just living their best life. Okay, guys, let's be present. Josh.
I am so present right now. It's not even funny. Ask me a question.
We are the most present.
Josh, I'm gonna pick the best question. Camille is flooding our thing with questions.
Camille is on it.
Josh, what are areas you've seen women hold back that you'd love to see them step forward in strength as you're building relationship with them?
Who's asking? Camille?
Camille.
Okay.
They're all got questions at the moment.
Okay, ways I've seen women hold back.
Yep, their strength when you're building relationship with them, where you would like to see them step forward. Or even just hold back at themselves.
Maybe give an example, Beck.
Okay, so some women will, when they're with a guy, okay, this is just a really far-fetched one, but it's just to kind of give you an idea, I think, of what she's meaning. So they'll like dumb themselves down a little bit so that they seem not as like too intelligent to like scare the guy off, or they won't be too assertive, because they're like naturally quite assertive, but they're like, oh, he might think I'm too much, so I'm going to hold back the fullness of who I am, to kind of appease them. And so I think the heart of the question is how have you experienced people that have held back in relationship where you would love to see them step out more as a woman, like when you're dating a woman or when you're getting to know a woman. I think that's what she's meaning.
Yeah, that makes sense. I may not be the best one to answer this. I don't feel like I've experienced a lot of that. I think the way I would answer that is I love when I can tell a woman is being fully herself and bringing herself and not afraid of hurting me or intimidating me. I love that. I feel honored by that, and it usually helps me relax. Like, oh, this person's being themselves. I love that. You know, in a dating context, especially, the goal is to get to know the real person. And so presenting, when you experience a vulnerable interaction, which is, you know, let's say someone has an intense personality where they're worried about their first impression. I love when I can tell someone embraces themselves and just brings themselves and doesn't care what I think. I think that speaks volumes about who they are. So I can't say I've been in a scenario, I'm trying to think of when someone held back, but yes, I love, and I think someone else asked beforehand about like, what are things girls do that intimidate guys? I don't know. I think that's such an individual, unique thing. And I think women shouldn't be worried about intimidating guys. If the guy is intimidated, he's not the right guy for you. You know what I mean? Like that's not a good pairing. So just be fully yourself and you'll find a guy that loves you being fully yourself.
Love it. I love that. And that's exactly what we've been trying to do. And as I've been talking to more and more women, it's like, hey, you don't need everyone to like you. You don't need, all the guys to be after you. You just need that one person that's actually like, oh, I see who you are in the fullness. And I actually love that. And I dig it. And that's the kind of person that I want to be with. And so you being the fullness of you is going to attract that person who you don't have to, hold back for, you don't have to dumb down for, you don't have to try and be less intimidating for. My husband, I was always like, gosh, who am I going to end up with? I'm very outgoing and assertive and bold and I thought, I've got to try and calm that down. And he actually was like, I saw those things and I love them about you. And I thought they were incredible. And yeah, that really just speaks to what you were saying, Josh, I think. That's really cool. Does anybody else want to answer that question? Ways that you've seen women hold back that you really wish that they didn't in dating? I mean, I think Josh really hit the nail on the head, but I just want to give you guys opportunity to respond to that as well.
Well, I think, we live in a culture of empowerment in our world, in the Western world specifically. We live in a culture of empowerment in the Northwest, and specifically within the revivalist culture and Bethel culture, there's a culture of empowerment. And that's amazing. That's really, really good. I know for me, and just talking to other men too, it's nice to be able to meet the vulnerability of women first before we meet the fierceness and the empowerment. And I think all of us guys would say we care about that empowerment. We absolutely do. We value it and we champion it. It's nice to be able to meet the vulnerability first when we have encounters with women, and to be able to, because we want to know that we have something to contribute, right? I mean, the goal of actually even looking for a partner is to say, I'm looking for someone who can add value to my life and my journey, and because there's something I can't do on my own. And so it sort of defeats it if whether it's the man or the woman, it can happen either way. If they sort of can live so completely without you, they don't have to be vulnerable. And so I think vulnerable really is a huge deal, like Josh said. And we want to see the vulnerability first, and hopefully we can be that too. Hopefully we can rise up and equally be vulnerable for women in a dating context. So
good. I love that. My husband was literally just saying to me the other day, I was really vulnerable about something, and he was like, it humanizes you. When you're very powerful and driven and go, it can seem like I've got this, I don't need anyone, I'm independent. But vulnerability really allows a guy to come in and lend his strength to the situation. And I think for people like me, I've been alone or out of my home since I was 16. So I was always on my own. I always traveled by myself. I traveled around Europe on my own at 17 for almost a year. And so I always had to be alone. and independent, but to actually have somebody come alongside and say, hey, you don't have to be strong by yourself all the time. Like, I actually want to be your strength. I actually want to help you and encourage you and be there for you. It was just really cool how he was sort of talking about how it makes you more human, more relatable, more accessible. We can connect on our heart to heart and go deeper with vulnerability than if you're just like, I got this, like, leave me alone, I'm assertive, I'm running my own show, doing my own thing, and you are kind of just there. And so I love what you said, Leif. I feel like you really hit that on the head. Yeah, I want to move on to the next question, because I feel like this one will be pretty fun. What are some things that you wish all women knew about men?
Not all men are the same.
Sorry, Darren, what'd you say?
Not all men are the same.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Do you want to expand on that?
Well, there's just, I mean, really, it's just believing a lie that, you know, that there's no guy out there that all men are the same. All guys do things this way. All guys don't believe in empowering women. All guys don't believe in a woman, you know, in leadership, you know, just like all of these, all guys, and then just fill in the blank. It's just not true. There's no true statement, all guys, other than physical attributes. Obviously, you know, there's no all guys, and then you can fill in the blank. You just can't do it.
That is a good word.
That is a good word. And those things are just like inner vows, ungodly beliefs, lies that we're believing. Whenever we say all people something, it's just a lie from the pit of hell. I truly believe, to keep us stuck, keep us away, keep us in a place of discontentment, despair, singleness, hopelessness, whatever you name it. It is just so evil. I'm coming against it so hard in the girls that I'm talking to, because it actually keeps us from being open and even meeting people, falling in love, all this stuff. So 100% agree and believe that. Love it. Does anyone else want to say anything on that?
I mean, I'd kind of piggyback off of what Josh said earlier, that men are looking for different types of women. Some men are looking for outgoing women. Some are looking for shy women. Some are looking for social women. Some are looking for intelligent women. Some are looking for this or that or whatever. And the way that God has uniquely made every single woman is amazing. And she shouldn't be hesitant to express that because she's afraid that, well, guys won't like me if whatever. It's like, no, actually, there are some men that are actually specifically looking for women just like you. And like you said, Beck, there are women that aren't, or there are men that aren't, and those men aren't a good fit, and that's fine. You know, it's I think about finding someone that's a good fit for you, not necessarily needing all the men to like you, but just needing the right one to like you. And so embracing who you are and really shining in that, and being confident in that what you carry is amazing. And there's a man, or there are men out there that are looking for what you bring.
Mm-hmm.
So good. I love that.
Now, I'll share a couple things. One, I think women should never discount how much guys are looking for an appropriate kingdom battle to fight in this lifetime. Like, we are wired to go to battle and to have a battle to fight. We are. I think one of the reasons why society, especially Western society, can be so tough right now for guys is so much of it is sort of managed and controlled and kind of confined and things like that. So guys are always looking for outlets where they can use their physical strength, physical abilities, their creativity in ways that are involved in some sort of a battle. And the battle may look differently for all kind of guys, but when women can champion that and see that in an appropriate context, that's a very extremely healthy thing. And the guy's going to feel better about himself. And as a result, the woman who's with him will feel better about herself too, because the guy is actualizing who he is. He's becoming who God created him to be. That's the first thing I'd say, is that there's an inner warrior in a guy that needs to express itself, and a woman to help him can say, okay, that may not be me. I may not be exactly like that, but I really want to champion that in him. I really want to foster that. Maybe it's a hobby I have to just sort of release. Maybe he's a hunter. Maybe he's a mechanic. Maybe he's got a car he's working on in the garage. There's something that he can do where there's a battle to fight where it gives them a chance to outlet that stuff is good. The second thing I'd say is women can just never underestimate how much men are captivated by beauty. Beauty is such a big deal to men. And in the best of ways, we are visual. And it's so often we hear someone say men are visual, and it's such a negative connotation, right? Because we think about the men that struggle with porn addiction or sexual addiction of any kind or whatever. And but in a healthy context, when a man has had his mind renewed, God does not remove his value for beauty. He intensifies it, and you start to see more. And beauty can be subjective. There's things that some guys find attractive versus other guys, and so there's no one model fits all. But just to say in general, women, live your best beautiful life. Live your best beautiful life, and don't stop trying to be beautiful. Find a way that you can be beautiful, because I guarantee you there's a guy out there that's going to recognize you, and he's going to call you out for it. He's going to seek you and pursue you because of it. And that's what beauty does. It causes the pursuit of a woman in a natural way. And women like to be pursued, and there's an honor in that. And so live your best beautiful life, and whatever that looks like, and before the Lord, with honor and dignity, and trust that God's going to use that in faith. So
I love that. The focus on perfecting, or not perfecting, but like growing your inner beauty and your outward. And like you said, it doesn't mean you have to look a certain way or not, but actually having, like I was reading a book recently that basically said, like, are you taking pride? It was a dating book. Are you taking pride in how you look? Are you working out? Are you letting yourself go? Guys and girls, if somebody who's sitting on the couch all day watching TV, consuming junk, is far less appealing just in general than somebody who's actually being active and getting out there. And regardless of what their body looks like, it's like, oh, am I living my best life? Am I taking care of my temple? Am I, filling myself with things that are life-giving, actually fill me up with the goodness of God. Darren's holding up his Coca-Cola.
And I just want to piggyback.
No judgment, Darren, but
I just want to piggyback and just be extremely clear. I actually just did a study of beauty in the Bible, and I have like 4 or 5 classifications of what beauty is. Physical beauty is only one. It's like when you literally categorize what the Bible says in totality about beauty, it's probably about 30% of what the Bible talks about in terms of beauty. There's literally 70% of what the Bible's talking about that's talking about not the 30% is the external qualities, and then the internal qualities are another like 25%. And then there's qualities have to do with what the community calls out in you, in the person that it sees, and then the prophetic on top of that, what the beauty represents before God. And so there's so many ways to be beautiful before the Lord and before man. And so don't pigeonhole what I said into one, only the physical, because I'm not meaning that in any way whatsoever. It's just in totality, there's tons of ways.
That's good.
So yeah.
Yeah, so good. So would you guys say, let's talk about beauty for a little bit. When you see someone, what are the things that you notice? And be honest. Like, every guy says, like, I noticed the hearts, because we feel like that's like the really Christian answer, right? But that's a really, okay. I mean, we can get that answer anywhere. But really, when you meet a woman, what are some of the things that you notice? It can be external or internal. What are some of the things that you are picking up on? And I'm not even meaning like judging, like is she godly, is she not? But like, what are the things that you just are captivated by and notice? And this might be different based on each person.
Mine would be confidence. Like it's the number one thing. Like if she's like totally confident in herself, it just really, really, I don't know, it strikes like the right chord with me. But and I'm not going to speak, oh, well, why do I like that, or why do I, not like women who aren't confident? I won't speak into that right now. That's a totally different topic. But for me, the first thing when I'm around women is confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. It's actually funny. I surveyed, I think, over 30 guys, and I spoke to a lot of them. And confidence was the number one thing that they said was the most attractive to them in a woman, regardless of how she looks, regardless of anything else. If she was confident, she infinitely became more attractive, like instantly became more attractive to them. And it didn't matter. All these other factors were kind of secondary to the confidence. So I love that. And I feel like you spoke really well into pretty much what I've heard most guys say. So I love that. What about you guys?
For me, I would say physically, like if it's, you know, someone I've never met and I see them, physical things that'll stand out are hair, as I've already mentioned, long hair. And
he's like, can I touch it?
Can I put my hands in it?
This makes you sound so creepy.
It's so creepy. Beck. Oh my gosh. Yeah, eyes, hair. And then in a conversation, probably the main thing I'm aware of is emotional availability and ability to connect. Like being present in yourself and being present with me and able to emotionally connect and be available.
Love that. I have a question on that, but before I keep going, does anyone want to address that question?
I would say, I mean, Josh, I love it. I love it. So I was a little misled by the question. I know we were talking physical. If we're talking physical,
you want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add to that.
Who votes long hair?
Me, 100%. long hair and colored eyes are just they're so attractive to me. But then again, I will say this though, like, and I'm sure like Josh and all these other men in here, they'll agree, like you can have all of the physical things and then you show up and you're in the middle of a conversation and the woman's checked out, she's totally not confident, everything just flatlines.
Totally.
And it's it is so strange because you wouldn't think that, but that's just and I feel like it's just the maturity in the Lord with all of us. Because before it may not have been the case, but now it's like, you know, I'm out. Like Darren has done checked out.
Yes.
And so if there's a girl that has short hair, not colored, well, I mean, every eye is colored. I don't know even like colored eyes, but brown eyes, short hair, like maybe what you wouldn't say is your type. And I think types are perfectly fine because everybody has a type. So there's nothing wrong with having a type as long as it's a healthy type. I think a lot of people have types that aren't actually healthy and are based on past pain or whatever, and they're actually not attracted to the people that they need. They're attracted to the people that they want, which is different. And God's type is very different for them. But say you actually are healthy and you know what you find attractive, and but that girl walks up to you and she's not kind of your definition. She could be super cute, but she's got kind of shorter hair and brown eyes, and she has all the confidence in the world. Would you still find her more attractive? Yeah, Josh. He's ready. I don't even have to finish the question.
You didn't even want to get the question out.
I know where you're going. I want to answer.
Okay.
I feel like Darren, I feel like you kind of already said it, but for me, if I notice a girl is my type, and I do have a type, and she's really attractive, I find her really hot, it doesn't matter. If I go talk to her and I discover can't connect, insecure, those things, it's like there's no, it's like moving on. Now, the opposite, I meet someone who is not my type, but they're cute, you know, like people can be attractive, but they're not my type.
Totally.
But we connect and there's chemistry and it's fun and they're confident and we have similar things happening in our lives. That causes them to be more attractive. That causes that to change. And I think my life testifies to that. If I look back at the women I've dated and been in relationship with, physically they are completely, you know, different. Short Hispanics, tall redheads, blondes, people of different skin colors. Just, I mean, but it was all about the connection and the relationship and the chemistry, and you know, but you can develop the physical attraction part to a degree.
Yeah, to a degree. But I love that you're open to being, you might know what your type is or what the type of person that you're attracted to, but you're still open to talk to other people, date other people. We're not so boxed in. I mean, honestly, if I was boxed into my type, I would never have married my husband. He's totally not my type. Totally not what I had dated before. But being open to go, okay, God, you actually know what my type is. And maybe I don't because I'm still single. So maybe you actually have a better idea of what I need. And so I love, Josh, in that you've just been super available and super open to just getting to know different types of people, because then you dated different types of people too, and you didn't kind of get so like honed in on one type of person. So I think that keeps a lot of people stuck as well. And you guys said something before that I just want to ask a question about. What makes someone what would turn you off someone? So say you like, oh, they're cute, you know, or you'd think they're nice, and you know, you start talking to them. What are some things that make you instantly go, nah?
Well, I want to just jump in real quick because I didn't get to answer the question about the attractiveness part.
Okay.
So the thing that you were talking about, for me personally, and I don't know how any of the other guys feel, perfume does it for me. A really nice perfume is intoxicating. Not overblown, but a really nice one goes a long way towards when women wear perfume. It is just something guys can't duplicate. We can't get that anywhere else, you know? And so I also think the light in a girl's eyes, like when the first thing that I notice is I look at the light in her eyes, because eyes are going to be with you forever. And when a woman's eyes are captivating, I think some of that is the Lord. I really do. I think there's a radiance that comes from the Lord that you can see in a woman's eyes. And it's incredibly attractive. It really is worth talking about. And I also want to say, I've been around women that were almost like supermodels, but had no regard for the Lord. They had no regard for the Lord. And I walked away thinking, honestly, that felt pretty, it wasn't attractive. It was unattractive. I had that distinct sense. And you might laugh and say, no, that can't be true. And I would say, maybe to the world can't do that. But when you love Jesus, when you actually walk with him and you have an experience with someone who's not submitted to the Lord, so the physical frame might do that for perhaps the world, but you actually can recognize true beauty, and you can walk away going, that would never work. And it would just, it's not attractive. It's not really something that I could ever build a life around. And so there really is no typecasting of that. And there's so many things and aspects of beauty that God can build into anyone, no matter who you are, man or woman, you know? So there's lots of hope, no matter how you're born and whatever your genetic code is, you know, God can do a lot. So. Yeah.
So good. And you kind of partly answered my second question too, of like, what's a turn off? So when, you know, they don't love Jesus, they haven't been spending time with him. I think that's a really good kind of baseline of like, obviously that's a turn off if people don't love the Lord. But if somebody does love the Lord, and you're in conversation with them, it might be the first time, might be like the third date. What are some things that make you really like, you know what, this isn't something I want to continue? Like things that are a turn off. One of the girls asked, I think it was Kelly, on one of the posts that we had before. What just really turns you off?
To be real specific, for me, what's like a dead turn off is whenever they start blasting someone, like talking bad about, oh, you know, they this or they that, and, you know, on and on about, you know, all those things. It's like, well, I'm just not. For me, I don't know everybody else, but for me, like whenever, like when, and say like the conversation was never, I'm going to give you an example. Like we're talking about things and how we do things, how we do life, things we enjoy. And, you know, she starts rambling. Yeah, you know, I like to do this. And, you know, this other girl that I used to go with, she this, and then starts like basically just like delivering all of that girl's baggage to me. I'm like, that's a huge turnoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like really big.
Yeah, that is something that comes up quite a lot when I do these kinds of panels with men. Gossip is a really big turnoff. I hear it time and time and time again. That, hey, the way you speak about other people, guys are really, really listening and attentive to. I didn't realize the extent of it until I started talking to more panels with guys, and they're paying attention and they're looking, and that it kind of speaks more to character as well, right?
Yeah.
And the integrity of like, how do you steward people's hearts? How do you steward their stories? How do you care about people? Yeah.
And I would say the opposite to that, which is really attractive, is whenever a woman is talking about someone who's struggling and she's like, I'm thinking about doing this for said person, or I was thinking about doing this, or I felt like the Lord put on my heart to do this for that person. Like those, so that does the opposite effect. It's like your attraction level just went like super high.
Yes, Josh, you don't have to reach. You can ask a question. I mean, you can answer. I'm next.
No, I was stretching. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But I'd love to hear what you have to say about that too.
For me, so what's a big turnoff?
Yeah.
I had one. Yes. When like early on in a dating relationship, or when you're getting to know someone, when you can tell they're letting go of their opinion to keep me comfortable or just go along with what I want to do, because they want to keep me happy, so that I want to whatever, I don't know. Like when a woman doesn't have an opinion or doesn't let herself have an opinion, and it could be like little things like, where do you want to go today, or what do you want to do, and it always gets
I don't know, what do you want to do?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my word, have an opinion.
It reminds me of that Coming to America. What kind of music do you like? Whatever music you like.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I'm like, oh gosh.
I haven't seen it.
So Proverbs 31 talks about the woman of noble character, right? That's the famous passage that every woman has probably read and probably had their mom read to them, and probably their dad read to them, and it gets preached so often, maybe for Mother's Day or whatever service of the year. It's such a popular one. But you can if you look at that text, the Proverbs 31 verses 10 through 31, and you reverse it, if you look at trying to project what those characters traits would be like in the negative, what you end up with is a person who is completely entitled and has arrived in their position in life by virtue of only the superficial, only their physical beauty. And the Proverbs 31 character has to do with a person who nothing's been handed to them. They have the character enough to live in responsibility, and they're open to a process of transformation. And I think for guys and girls, this is not just a women's thing, but we can sort of, in life, not everyone starts out the same. Not everyone has the same level of benefits to start out. And some people have lots of privileges based upon their beauty, their looks, and things like that. And a person that doesn't rest on that actually allows God to take them through the process of transformation and humility and conversion, a deep conversion, that is noble and has character. But there are people that get very far in life without any of those processes of transformation. And when I see that, when I meet that, personally, for me, that's a turnoff. That's just not something I can relate to. And because, it's just not something that I think God's processes in the kingdom are about. God's process of kingdom are always about transformation and having your rough edges come off in life, and this process of sanctification. So being a person who's open to that and willing to that and in this process is a huge deal. And when it's not there, when you can tell someone their faith is perhaps shallow or they don't have faith, relationship won't go very far.
I love that term, crab shallow. I've never heard that before. No, I love that. So good. Yes, Michael, go for it.
I think one of the things that I find really, I don't know if turn off is quite the right word, but when pushes me away, when a woman has a lot of walls, and they could be emotional walls where it's like, I want to be able to connect with her, and it's like she's always keeping me at arm's length. And that could be in conversation where it's like, I don't know if it's a lack of trust on her part or what it exactly is, but it's like trying to connect and just feeling like there's always this wall between us. And it's not necessarily physical. I mean, that could be part of it, but it's more typically emotional. Sometimes it'll show up in trying to communicate with her where it'll take her days to get back, or if I write this long, she'll write back this long. And it just feels like she's always pushing me away. And, if you want to push me away, that's fine. I'll go away. But
maybe be clear about it rather than just not replying or replying short.
I don't really know if it's intentional though. Sometimes I think it's not intentional. And I think, and one of the other things is I really appreciate a woman that can laugh. And if she's, so the, as Leif is talking about, sort of the opposite of that. If she's someone that's very serious, takes herself very seriously, takes life very seriously, and can't laugh at life and can't laugh at herself, that's a big turnoff for me as well. And I'd say probably one other thing is that if she's someone that very much wants to take charge and take control of things rather than giving me space to lead and to progress things forward, then that's often, like I said, I'm just like, okay, like I'm wanting to lead things, but if you're not going to give me a place to do that, then I'll find someone else who will trust me to do that.
Trusting to lead or to navigate, at least in dating. I love that. Yeah, that's really good. I feel like I posted in our chat a question a little bit ago, but I'm going to change it a little bit. It's talking about women being really mothering. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this before, but I'm gonna kind of lead into the question. So what I find is a lot of times, I've done this myself, women will go, okay, I like this guy, he's cute, so I'm going to make myself very available. I'm going to do, maybe he gets sick or something, so I'm going to bring him soup, I'm going to do his laundry, like I'm going to mother him as best as I can, because then I'm kind of trying to manipulate the situation to get him to like me, right? And then when he doesn't, I get super mad because what I found is guys don't want a mum, they want a wife, right? So I just kind of want you guys, the question that Catherine asked was, how can we as women support men without mothering them? And so what's the distinction for you guys? Because I do feel like there's a sense of control there as well, but for women that might not realize that they're doing it, we're trying to control the situation by being very sweet, being very kind, really going out of our way so that you like us in return. But then it doesn't happen that way, and then we get super upset and like, hey, he used me, I poured out my heart, I did all this stuff for him and he didn't like me back, because we're trying to kind of manipulate the situation, right? And usually if I ask these people, hey, would you do this for a girlfriend, the answer is no. Or would you do this for another guy you weren't interested in, the answer is no. And so I'd love to speak more to that. Have you experienced a woman trying to kind of mother you? How does it make you feel? And then what's a better way of them being able to support you without feeling like they're being mothering, if that makes sense?
That's a really good question. I'll just hop on because a couple of things came to mind. First off, I would say get in tune with his love language first. I love the thing about women, and I feel like for the majority of women, this is it. They love to serve. They love to do. And especially whenever you're attracted to somebody, you just like, there's something else that kicks on. Okay, what can I do for him? I would say there's a ton of wisdom just getting on board with his love languages, and then just follow your leading. I would say personally, doing laundry is over the top. Anything that you would be doing for him while y'all are married is probably not the best thing to be doing while y'all are dating. Now cooking a meal, that's totally different. But yeah, like paying his credit cards or, dropping off, running errands for him. Like, I don't know. For me, that crosses a line. And like I said, there again, I love the fact that women really want to serve men. And also, I would say probably what I would say is beware of a man who lets you do that.
Yes.
I would definitely say sit back and think about that, because I mean, let's just be honest. There's guys out there who will just do that. They'll let you do all of that stuff, and they have absolutely no interest in dating you or even a future with you at all. So I would be very cautious about doing anything like that. The biggest thing for me is think about the things that you would do as a married couple and try your hardest to stay away from doing those things.
That's really good. That's a really good yardstick as well, of like, oh, okay, if I like this person, yes, I might treat them a little bit differently, but am I still treating them like I would most guys, most girls, like, or am I starting to try and fulfill this wife role or mother role, which I don't even have yet. And then a lot of people start to fantasize, and now they're creating this whole world in their mind because they think they're on a certain path. And the guy, like you said, is super turned off, or if he's allowing you to do that, then he's probably, that's not the kind of guy that you would want in your life, that just kind of using you to do all these things for him. That was awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Darren. Does anybody else have anything to say on that?
I would like to address something that Darren touched on. And I think it depends on the context of where you are in the relationship. Because if you're dating somebody and you're trying to determine if this is someone that you want to marry, I think trying out some of these things that you would do as spouses can be really good, just to see how it goes. Like going shopping together. What does that look like? Cooking a meal together.
Yeah.
How does that go?
Yeah, this is more in the context of like, you aren't dating, no one's interested.
Okay.
Like the girl's interested in you, or she's trying to support you, but is starting to kind of mother in order to control the situation so that you see her in a certain light, which I find is usually quite a big turnoff for a guy.
Yeah, I think with that, what's happening is that I think a woman's job is to be available and to be receptive, and to invite the man in, but it's his job to pursue. And so to me, that's almost her taking on his role. And the problem is then that causes the man to become passive. He's not having to do anything. He's not having to pursue her because she's doing all the pursuit for him. And the problem is what you use to get someone, you're going to have to use to keep them. So that means that sometimes I think women have this expectation that if I pursue him initially, then it'll switch and then he'll start pursuing me. No, if you pursue him initially, you're going to have to keep pursuing him. You're going to have to keep serving him. You're going to have to keep pouring into him. And he's just going to sit back and receive it, because there hasn't been an establishment in the relationship that he's actually going to pursue you and pour into you. And I think unfortunately, like Darren was alluding to, that there are definitely men out there that will receive that, because it feels good to have someone coming over and cooking for you and taking care of you, and it's not costing the man anything. And so I think that, like I said, if the woman makes herself available and she responds and invites him into sort of becoming active and proactive and pursuing her, it sets up a much healthier dynamic in the beginning you can maintain through the relationship. And if he doesn't, then she knows that he's not a good fit for her, and she can move on to find a man that will.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so good. I love that. I love that. Hey, we get to show that we're open. I would even say girls can, initially initiate, but then the status quo does have to change. It's not very quickly. It needs to become, hey, he's taking control. He's taking lead. He's starting to pursue, because like you guys have spoken about, it's in the heart of a man to pursue. And that's actually like, I don't know, I haven't read Wild at Heart, but I know that it talks a lot about like, hey, this is kind of what we're created for. We're created for the pursuit. And so I love that. I feel like that kind of brought up another question in my heart. Leif, do you want to speak on that before I did? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, every situation is different, but what I've noticed, what's a safe approach for in every situation, if you're dating someone or someone is your girlfriend or you're engaged or whatever situation, and there's something going on, just listen really well, listen attentively, and just encourage the guy. And start with the encouragement and just say, I believe in you. I trust you. I believe in you. And whatever thing prophetic God gives you too. Sometimes what guys maybe aren't seeing in the moment. And I've been guilty of this too. There's sometimes where you're afraid of something, or you panic. And so you need to talk to your partner about something because you're just concerned and you can't see the Lord in it. And sometimes the greatest thing a partner can do is just say, you know what, I see God in this, and just sort of share without solving it. They're speaking to what God's doing in the moment. And I can't tell you how much relief that's brought me before. And it's not solving it. It's not taking it out of my hands, but it's contributing it by making me feel valued, by giving me a voice to speak, but then also saying what the Lord's doing it. And that's literally 90% of the time. And then there's times I've come back and said, what do you think we should do? And that happens actually a lot. Like, just what do you think we should do about, like, what's your thought? And then if that door is open, then take the open door, express your opinion. I wouldn't necessarily go there like automatically without the invite, but if you're given the invite, take it. Like, if he's clearly wanting your input, then take it. But the other two things are a safe approach for anything. See what God's doing in it, listen really well, just let him know that you care and value him and affirm him. And that'll be so much of it right there.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So good. I feel like sometimes women, because they want to be nurturing and kind, it becomes like the other side. We're like, hey, we're going to do all this stuff for you. And so I feel like you guys have spoken about a really cool boundary and really clear, like, oh, I can support you and love you, but I'm not going to do anything that a wife or a mother would do. Because unfortunately, a lot of people then get wife or mother zoned, not wife zoned, like mother zoned. Not even, it's worse than the sister zone. They're never going to want to kiss you then. And so it's and unfortunately it's with the person that they want to be with, which is really unfortunate. Yes, Josh.
And one other way I would say that, or add to that, is don't give into the relationship more than what's being given to you. Like, obviously there's going to be a back and forth as you're developing a relationship, but if you find yourself as a woman taking care of and doing all the things like we talked about, and he's not doing that back to you, so maybe I wouldn't call it mothering, but that reveals an imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not do the same things for each other or in the same way, but the level of commitment and serving each other needs to be equal. Mm-hmm. And it looks different in different, there's going to be seasons where they're doing more and you're doing more, but it has to be equal at the end of the day. And so I think that's another way to measure it, whether I'm over the top taking care of this guy, or in an unhealthy way or a healthy way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So good. Oh, guys. Yes, go for it, Darren.
Just one other thing that I want to say, for those, I feel like there's going to be women watching either now or they're going to see this video later. I feel like the Lord's revealing, like, part of this is because there may be a lie that's being believed that, well, I've got to settle, there's not a lot of guys out there, and, I'm not going to really find anybody that's going to pour into me. And I just want to cancel that lie right now. Like, it is totally a lie. You are amazing. You are valued. You are cherished. You are highly acceptable to the man that you are going to be with, that deserves you, that deserves to, not just to deserve, but to serve in the deserve. And I think you're so worth that. It's very, I have 2 daughters, so kind of like everything that I think about, okay, I think about it with my daughters in mind. What would I want my daughters to know? First off, I want my daughters to know that, hey, you're worth dying for. I mean, Jesus straight up did it. He called it out. He's like, no, she's worth dying for, and I'm going to do that. And then he calls us men to do the same for our wives. The same thing that he did for the church. So I would say this, if your guy isn't doing for you what Jesus did for the church, you need to be going on to the next guy, because Jesus has paid way too far a price for you not to receive what he's paid for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that can be modeled in friendship, that can be modeled in dating. And if you, I love that. If they're not willing to do it in friendship and dating, they're probably not going to do it in marriage. And doesn't mean they can't grow into that. It just doesn't mean you have to be there during that process and stick around and wait while they mature into that. So I love that. I have two questions before we finish up. So the first question is, how have you felt the most misunderstood in dating? Like you've done something and your heart has been completely misconstrued. Maybe you've been put on blast a little bit. People have talked and said things. How have you felt the most misunderstood with your motives, intentions, and actions? Josh is smiling to himself. I feel like you might have a story. I pick up on everything. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Go for it, Leif.
Just a very brief thing. I think it's okay to, it's so funny. We live in a culture of extremes where either people are having sex before marriage and they're going all the way, or occasionally in church culture, religious culture, we can almost make it a religion in and of itself to not have even expressed natural affection in a relationship, to where that's some sort of it's like a virtue signaling to yourself or your friends or whatever. And I just want to say the Bible is really clear about this. If you read between the lines, there's a lot of verses that talk about natural affection for one another. There is a appropriate fruit that should be borne out in a dating relationship. It's okay to show natural affection for your date. It's okay for that to be distinguished from your friendships with other women. Like, it should be okay to show that. Obviously, if there's guys who are struggling with, they don't have self-control or self-discipline, then you may need to make, more solid boundaries. But there should be some form of natural affection in your relationship. It really should be there, and it's okay to have that. And both people need to give themselves permission to have that. Yes, you need to watch the limits, but if there's nothing different that doesn't distinguish it from a platonic relationship, why would you ever get married? I mean, what's the purpose of it? You could just exist as friends. So I think having natural affection in a relationship is really important. That's something that is worth going after there. So.
And to come back to the question, that's something that you felt misunderstood in.
Yeah.
When you've kind of wanted to be a little bit more like, when I say intimate, like hold hands or something, and they haven't liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's really cool. I like that, because I find sometimes it's really easy to read in. We ascribe motive to actions, and oftentimes it has nothing to do with the person's actual motives. And we don't actually look at the heart. We're like, oh, this person did this, so this is what it means. And so that's part of the reason why I'm asking this question. It was a good word. Who else has something to share on that?
Yeah, this is maybe a little bit general, but I've been thinking about in relationships, I'm responsible for the way I treat her, but she's responsible for the way she interprets it, feels about it, and responds to it.
Yes.
That is so good.
Thanks, Josh.
Really good.
and when all of a sudden I'm responsible for how she feels, then I think there's a problem here.
Oh my goodness, we're done.
Walk off.
Ultimate
You guys
wisdom.
will all walk off here. Here we go.
Stopping
the mic.
Do we need to say anything else? Michael, give this man a microphone.
Mic drop.
Keep going.
Okay.
Oh man, I lost my train of thought, Josh. I was about to.
I'm so sorry. I just had to celebrate.
Oh, thank you.
Reach it. So you said we are not responsible for their emotions.
Yeah, and so here's something that I thought too, that we as a society expect when a man is hurt or rejected or angry in a relationship to have self-control to not physically abuse his woman. Like, that's a given. We expect that. But I think we should equally expect, if a woman is hurt or rejected or angry, to use self-control not to emotionally abuse her man. That just because she's hurt, she doesn't have permission to say and do whatever she wants to me because she's hurt. And in doing that, I mean, it talks in Proverbs about a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one with her own hands tears it down. And I would say a foolish one with her own words tears it down. That out of her hurt, if she chooses to respond to that hurt, to just breathe fire on her man, just go off on him, as she tears her man down, she's tearing her relationship down, and she's tearing her own house down. She's tearing herself down. And so I think that when like I said, I take ownership for the way I treat her, she takes ownership for how she interprets that, for the story that she tells herself, you know? And
So
then
good.
she takes ownership for her emotions and how she responds to those emotions. That's her responsibility.
Wow.
My responsibility is my emotions and how I respond to them. I'm responsible for how I treat her, but I'm not responsible for how she interprets that, for the story that she tells about herself, or she tells to herself about that particular circumstance. So I think one of the biggest things is when there's this information gap, right? Like if, you know, if I'm late or if I haven't called or whatever, you can assume the best, you can assume the worst. There's this information gap. You know, if I do something, she doesn't know why I did it. There's a place where she can assume my motives or she can ask my motives. And when she starts to assume my motives, and then she responds negatively to that assumption, and now she's punishing me because she's feeling bad, and she's going to punish me until I stop this behavior and start behaving the right way and make her feel the way she wants to feel.
Wow.
You know, I feel lonely, and it's your fault I feel lonely, and I'm going to punish you until you make me feel accepted. I can't do that. I can't create those emotions. I can control how I treat you, but I can't control the emotions that you're feeling. And those emotions often come from your interpretation of what's happening in the story you're telling yourself. So, yeah, I just think her taking ownership of things, and if she's not sure about my motives, ask me, because I guarantee it's probably not what she's assuming. She's assuming the worst case, and it's not usually going to be that. Usually it's out of my own pain or my own, you know, whatever. It's not that I'm intentionally trying to hurt her and don't care about her.
Wow, I love that. I can feel the emotion in that. You've obviously lived through this misunderstanding. And I think you've really hit something on the head, because this is relationship 101. This will happen in every relationship, and doesn't even have to be romantic. And we can choose how we respond. We can choose what we believe. We can choose to seek truth or respond to the assumption. What were you going to say, Darren?
Well, there's just a couple of things. By the way, I totally 100% am on board with what Michael had just said. But it's funny because I don't want what he just said to be misinterpreted. What he's not saying is, if he goes over you and beats you with a bat, okay, he's not responsible for you being hurt. If he goes over to you and, you know, shouts at you and calls you all kinds of names, he's not saying, "Oh, I'm not responsible for your hurt." No, those are his actions. So I just want to clear the air, because it could be misinterpreted as, "Oh, so nothing you do could affect me." Well, that's just not true. I mean, there's some things that we as men could do that would affect women the way. But what he's talking about is in the context of he's doing something out of love. But he's not doing anything that doesn't align with what the Father is saying about you. So basically, he's speaking to you out of his mouth from what he's seeing with the Father's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, I think that my responsibility is to treat her with love and respect. And if she interprets it through her lens as something other than that, I'm not responsible for that.
Right.
Right. And that can also come out of hurts, that can come out of insecurity, that can come out of triggers. There is a myriad of reasons why somebody would receive something differently. And I love that. It's actually those boundaries of like, I'm in control of myself and my responses to something, and I can't control if my heart is pure before the Lord and I know what I did. I actually am not in control of their response, you know, and their reaction. Josh, I felt like you had something to say on this. How have you felt misunderstood?
I was gonna say something, but similar to what Michael said, but he said it so much better. Just when you prescribe meaning to things without asking, or when you do ask but you don't receive what my answer, what the guy's answer is, you know, like taking the guy's word for it. You know, maybe you need to feel a certain thing, and what do I want to say? Yeah, when they ask for clarity, you give clarity, but it's not. It doesn't help because it needs to be a certain way or through a certain lens, like you're saying, Michael. So I don't think I have a lot to add, but I just affirm what Michael said. It was really good.
Yeah, that was really good. And if we're just feeling the Holy Spirit on this. If you have any questions about this, or kind of what we're talking about, or if this is striking a hard chord and you're struggling with what we're talking about, feel free to just reach out to me on Messenger. I'd love to just chat with you and pray for you. Yes, Josh, and then Leif.
maybe you can just speak for women right now. Is that a hard thing to hear as a woman? What Michael just said, or could that be difficult to hear for some women in this stream?
I think so. I can speak for myself. I feel like before I was healthy and I really understood about triggers and healing, that would have been hard for me to hear because I was so in that place. I can't see beyond what I know. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I wasn't empowered to go, oh, actually, this isn't truth. Until I actually started asking the Lord for truth in situations, something would happen. I had such a spirit of rejection. So something would happen and I'd always see rejection behind it. And then it took the Lord going back through circumstances in my childhood, even in my young adulthood, and showing me truth of what was really going on, where the enemy tried to make me feel excluded and rejected and abandoned. That actually wasn't truth. And so I feel like for me personally now, hearing this makes 100% sense. And I totally believe in it. I agree with it. Beck 5 years ago probably would have struggled with it more. Because I was like, no, they're doing this to me. They're against me. What they're doing is all about me. It has nothing to do with them. The purity of their heart, I'm not even seeing right now because I'm seeing it through the lens of the rejection that I was struggling with. And so Darren mentioned something to me in the chat. I hope you don't mind if I share, but just kind of like, hey, the Lord might be stirring this up for somebody, some women who are actually struggling with this, and maybe just leaving open an opportunity if anybody is kind of triggered or having problems with what we're talking about, just to reach out to me. I'd love to just talk to you and minister to you heart to heart, because I know, especially when we're not living from a place of health and wholeness, a lot of these things are really triggering. Somebody does something and I find a lot of the time men become the enemy. So I'm going to you to answer questions of whether I'm beautiful, whether I'm loving, whether I'm worth being loved. And so when you do something that might be completely innocent, you have a flat tire or something happens, your phone dies and you are late to a date, then I'm like, man, they don't even care. He doesn't even care about me. I'm not worth messaging. I create this whole story in my head based on my past with rejection that says, you're dishonoring. I'm going to call you things and label you a certain way because that makes you other. It makes you the enemy. And then I'm more justified in my righteousness of like, I'm so pure. I was here waiting. I'm blameless, and you are this awful person. When in reality, something might have just happened and your phone died and you're like, oh, I'm just so sorry, but I don't give you a chance to explain. I don't give you grace for that because I'm seeing it through my lens of rejection. And then if I'm really unhealed, I'm going to go put you on blast and tell everybody I know what an awful, terrible person you are, because it's not enough that I'm hurt. I need everybody else to know it and agree with me and then treat you differently. And unfortunately, I see that a lot, kind of in our communities. I see a lot of grace as well from women who have gone through processing. They've become really sensitive to their heart. They know what their triggers are. They know where they come from. They're really quick at, picking up on it. And something like this literally happened to me on Sunday, which I haven't felt triggered in a really long time with rejection. But had a group that kind of just like walked off on me about something, and they didn't realize they were just going to the beach, but then we couldn't find them, and then we were like, it just brought that up in my heart for the first time in a really long time, and I got to go, okay, I'm actually feeling triggered by this. I haven't felt triggered by this in a while. I blessed them. I released them. I had a cry, honestly. I was pretty hurt, but then I was like, oh, their intention was never to leave me. Their intention was never for us not to find them. They were just one track mind. Hey, we're going to the beach, like we'll see you there, and didn't think that to check that Beck was coming with them, and just kind of walked away, and then I never found them. And so, but because I've gone through healing in that, I'm like, I could identify it, I could release and bless them, I could not hold it against them and forgive them, but I still allowed myself to feel the emotions of the hurt, but then to actually allow God to come in and speak truth and show me what the reality of the situation was. And I think, I hope I'm answering your question, Josh. I think when people haven't gone through this process with the Lord and healing, and don't even maybe have language around triggers, they just know this is how I respond, and everyone, men are like this, and this is just reaffirming my beliefs, my ungodly beliefs about men, because it's totally not true. Men are incredible, godly, love us well. And I even had to come up with affirmations that I would say daily at one point, because I was so hurt by certain Christian men that I started labeling everybody. And then what you meditate on multiplies. So I just kept seeing guys that did the exact same thing. But I actually changed that wiring, transformed myself by the renewing of my mind, and actually started to look for evidence of new truth, started to look for incredible godly men, and change the way I think. However, I think when people haven't gone through that kind of process, yeah, this can be triggering. This can be hard. This can be a harsh reality to go, yeah, actually men aren't like that. All men aren't like that. You might have had a few bad eggs. And even then, I feel like even if you're listening to this, ladies, asking God for truth, you might have been hurt by guys. You might have had situations like this. I feel like as you're going to ask the Lord for truth and go back into those memories, he's actually going to show you the truth of what was happening. And I truly believe, like, probably 8 times out of 10, it wasn't them rejecting you. It wasn't them dishonoring you. It was actually good, godly men who love the Lord, who, you know what, sometimes we just need to cut them some slack because they're trying their hardest and they just fell short. They made a mistake. They weren't perfect. I feel like that was something else the Lord really had to teach me. You know what? I can't hold them to a higher standard than I hold myself. And I was expecting men to be this, this, and this, and one little thing, and, oh, you're the worst, you know. There was no grace there. There was no grace for how incredible they are, for how much they were trying, for how they truly wanted to guard my heart, look after me, be good brothers, you know, all of this stuff. And yeah, I think a lot of where grace came and praying for men came, a lot of bitterness went away. And that really opened me up to meet the man of my dreams, which is my husband now. But if I hadn't gone through that process, I'd probably still be really bitter. I probably still really wouldn't like men. I'd still be living in triggers that super turned them away. I'd be really needy. I was so needy. Oh my gosh. You know, I laugh about it now. I was young. And I just had nothing else really in my life. I didn't have good parental figures, and I just wanted someone so badly, but God worked me through that. But anyway, that's the end of my preach. So yeah, Leif, go for it.
No, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. Please.
I was just going to say, ladies, if you're feeling this, I want to come beside you, talk to you. I'm coaching some incredible women currently, and we're actually walking through these things, and it's been 3 weeks and they're walking in such freedom. It's actually incredible to see. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out process. The Lord can heal you today of this. Go, Leif.
So I just have this great story I want to share, but I think it's kind of a really good wrap up thing. So I actually want to defer to Josh if you want to say something quickly, because I have just a story. I think it's going to really bless the women that are tuning in today. So.
No, I don't have anything. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Okay.
No,
He's always just stretching.
I'm just handsy.
This is dangerous in this context, Josh.
Darren's got something though.
Darren.
I did have just one more thing I just wanted to add to all of this before Leif goes. I just really wanted women to know that we as men, we do care about your feelings. We do care about your emotions. We're not at all saying we don't care how you feel. That's not what we're saying. We really care about them. We care about your emotions. We care about your feelings. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so good. Darren, you are such a great clarifier. I feel like Holy Spirit's telling him, like, this might be misunderstood. This is speak on this, clarify this. So good. I love it. It's so good having you on a panel.
Part of it is I have daughters.
Yeah, so good. All right, Leif, bring us home.
Yeah, so I used to, my job has been, I've been a pastor for a long time, and so I used to go to weddings and do weddings and stuff like that all the time. So there was one time I was at a wedding, and at this wedding were a number of women that were single. They were older, and there were a group of them, and I was watching them kind of circulate during the ceremony and then the reception, and they would come to the wedding by themselves or in a group or something, and they were flirting a lot and just kind of very boisterous, kind of circulating. And I remember just standing and watching them and just having this umbrage of that, just going, why are you doing that? Like I kind of knew their stories. I knew all of the women in this group. And so I kind of knew their stories. And I took that home before the Lord and said, Lord, why are those women doing that? Because I didn't understand what God was doing them in the moment. And God gave me a vision that night. And what he showed me was really life-changing. It changed my perspective. And I saw those women that were leaving the wedding ceremony, and they were walking towards the parking lot where but they didn't have any car, and there was no one there to take them. They didn't have a date. They didn't have anyone there. The wedding was done. The music was done. And I saw them in this vision. They were taking off their heels and they were adjusting their purses, and there was no joy left. There was literally no joy in their hearts. And I saw this flatbed truck pull up in the parking lot, and I saw Jesus get out, and Jesus put the flatbed down of the truck, and he individually helped each of those women get onto the flatbed of the truck, and he got them all situated and safe. And then he slowly drove them away. And the Lord said to me, he said, you will never know what it's like for women that are waiting to be chosen, what it's like when other women are chosen and they're not. He said, you'll never know the pain and the heartache and the closeness in which they carry that. And he said to me, he said, while they're waiting for their man to come along, I will always show up and I will take them to the harvest and make them fruitful. And that's what he was doing as the farmer. He was driving them to the harvest to make sure they knew that in the moment they were chosen, and that God had a destiny for them while they were waiting, and that they weren't forgotten. And it made me bawl, because my perspective changed. I went from seeing that, these women that were just almost being obnoxious to other men, and realizing that was a self-protective mechanism, that they wanted so badly to be chosen by someone. And I'm not trying to victimize anyone or make it sound even belittling in any way, but it was the Lord saying, while they're waiting, I am choosing them. I am choosing them every single time. They have to go to a wedding and they have to put on a face and pretend like they're happy when they're not the one chosen, and it's not their wedding. And so for any woman who's ever felt in our entire singles group, who's tuned in, who's always felt like you're always the bridesmaid and never the bride, what I want to say to you is, before the Lord, I want to start by saying you're chosen. You are so loved and chosen. You are so loved and chosen. And no matter who has or hasn't chosen you to this point in your life, you are absolutely chosen by God. And he sees the tenderness of your heart. If he could show me, and I'm just a dude, okay? If he can show me, how much more does he have a heart for you to talk to you about that than just me? I'm a guy, but I know he had to change my heart. And the second thing I want to say to you is that someone will come and choose you. Someone will come and choose you. Don't give up hope and faith that a guy will come and choose you. There will be someone that will come and choose you. So I just want to say that to you, to keep your faith. Keep your faith. Do the things you need to do before the Lord, to put your fleece out before the Lord, and live in his chosenness while you're waiting. That will give you the security and identity to wait for the man of your dreams to come along, whoever that is. But just know that God's heart is with you in all of the pain and process that you as a woman go through, that God sees it. He's so aware and so conscious of it. And I think as guys, we can learn to be conscious of that, how tough it is. Guys struggle with the waiting too, for different reasons, but women, I think, especially bear that in this culture. They've had this value taught to them by their moms, by families, that, the wedding day and their wedding day is so important to them. And it truly is. And that can also build a lot of heartache when it doesn't happen right away. So just favor on every single woman that's watching that, and healing for you. And just on behalf of all myself and all of the guys here, we literally stretch our hands towards you and we pray favor and honor and grace and mercy. And if there's anyone that's crying right now, who's that story impacted you, I just pray for that God would just send restoration and healing to you in the name of Jesus, that you would just receive the grace of Jesus and in your waiting period. So thanks for letting me share.
Woo! I think I just got saved again. That was amazing, Leif. Thank you so much for sharing. I was literally tearing up. I love that. The Lord
So good.
just saying to you, you will never know the pain of waiting. And I felt that. I felt that in 13 years of singleness, always being not even the bridesmaid, just the wedding attendee, and caught the bouquet twice 10 years ago. Doesn't work. And so I just love that you said that. And I love that you said, while they are waiting, I'm choosing them. That's the Lord's word for you. I feel like that's a perfect place to end. Guys, thank you so much for joining, each and every one of you. Darren, Josh, Michael, Leif, thank you for joining and just serving the singles in this way, wanting to pour into this community and just give men a voice and allow women to ask you some questions that have been burning on our hearts. And so, yeah, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much. Guys, we will see you hopefully on our next panel. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, back.
Later.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye. I'm